Yeah.
So, go ahead and say something. I'm going to see if it can YouTube.
Check. 1, 2, testing.
Yep, the little dot turned green. I think we're good. So I'm going to go ahead and start this thing up here. Let's see. I guess I probably should hit the record button. Let me check. It's one of those days. I've only done this 100 times. Let me look here.
Probably more at this point. I'd say your past episode.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Guns, self-defense, conceal carry. This is the Patriot Defense Podcast. From the War Room in Idaho's high desert, here's your host, Todd Echols.
And I am back once again into Saturday afternoon, and I'm tucked away in the War Room somewhere in the windy, very windy today, high desert of southern Idaho. And I'm not flying solo today. Today, joining me is an all-time favorite, Mr. Tiger Schultz.
How's it going?
Okay, I was like, geez, man, I better not have lost you.
No. I thought I'd hesitate for a second, just give you the hard tack.
Yeah, and that you did. So I got to jump on here and say welcome to the show, but I also got to jump out here first and apologize for everyone that I didn't get on last weekend. I had a class, a big permit class, like I usually do. You know, I have those once a month. I had that on Saturday, and everyone's safe. There was no harm caused to anyone in that class, but we'll talk about that because everything that could have happened in that class freaking happened.
Went wrong.
Oh my gosh. And then after that, I get done with that and I get everything cleaned up and I'm like, I think I'm going to go do a podcast. And so I headed inside real quick, maybe thought I'd get, something to eat real quick first. And, sure enough, some crazy stomach bug just ramrodded its way right through my household, and it caught up to me about Tuesday or Wednesday, and it was ugly. And it is gone, but I have not actually had the like flu, and this wasn't like this wasn't COVID or anything. I mean, but the flu, I haven't had that in probably 12 years, and it hammered me, and I'm feeling great, but I just don't feel quite right still, if that makes any sense.
Right. Yeah. You feel a lot better, but you're still not there.
I mean, normally I think of food and I think of, that sounds good. I'm going to go get me a bunch. And I'm like, I don't know about that.
Right.
It's still that aftershock.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Let's not go down that road again. But so how are you? We'll get into a couple other things, but first of all, how are you doing, sir?
I'm busy as shit.
That's good.
For those of you who aren't friends with me on Facebook but do know me from the podcast, I'm doing my master's program this year, and I learned something last week. One of my professors, he heard my timeline, my schedule, and if I do this, if I pull it off, I will be the first person to ever do the entire applied physics master's program at Johns Hopkins in under a year.
Holy cow, dude.
He's like, I think you're setting a record.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's awesome.
That sounds about like something you would do.
Yeah, like there's no reason to do it this there is. The government's making me do it this fast. But
you're like hold my beer.
Yeah, well, and that's what I'm doing tonight. I had 2 midterms this week that I did yesterday. So this is my first semi-normal weekend in 6 or 7 weeks. So wow. I'm drinking a few beers tonight, sitting around the campfire.
I'm gonna give you a hard time because it would have been a lot easier just to not do this and just go ahead and just put on the zombie.
Oh yes, it would have been a lot easier.
And this happened before we get too far. And I just want to jump in here because I always forget to say stuff. Since I said it to you, I feel like I've already said it on the podcast, but I have not. I am simulcasting. I am simulcasting tonight by myself. So let everyone who's watching this on YouTube Live, I appreciate that. Comment if you want to comment. I'll see the comment and we'll respond, but there'll probably be no typing. I will not be just typing my comments in tonight, but no, I was jazzed. I was ready. I had a partner for the zombie.
Well,
and then what?
2022.
What the?
2022.
There may not be a 2022.
I'm giving you extra time to train.
There might not be a 2022.
There will be. But everybody says that every year. They're like, well, maybe. And I'm like, this year or past year, 2020 zombie happened during election week. And everybody thought I was crazy.
Yeah, that's true. It did. So that's okay. I'm getting geared up, and Lord knows I need the extra time spent with my rifle that I still haven't taken out of the safe.
Yeah, see, perfect.
Yeah,
you have all the time in the world now.
No. Kudos to you for doing this, and that's wonderful. It's not something that ever interested me, but man, go for it. Get it done and come back stronger than ever.
Well, I never really thought I would go for a master's program because knowing myself, I always thought if I get my master's degree, I'm going to say, it's only like another year or two to my doctorate. Now that I've taken about 6 or 8 weeks of master's level courses, I can say that I'll probably never get my doctorate because I really don't want to work that hard. But and one of the classes I'm taking is pretty neat. It's Principles of Optics. So I'm learning and in all honesty, rifle scopes should cost $3 million. And
sweet.
But at the same time, flashlights and all of their measurements are complete and total bullshit. It's all marketing spin and bullshit. It doesn't really mean anything.
Right. So you have a little more. You have a little more respect for some of these optics places now. Yeah, for sure I do. Which, obviously, they do these calculations once and then produce thousands of optics, right? They figure it out, but they put it all into one product. But it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild, some of the stuff that goes into it. That's cool. I'm glad you're doing what you enjoy. That's cool. School, as far as college, I got a tech certificate in fish hatcheries management and stuff like that. I pretty much went to school on a fish farm.
Right.
And I enjoyed it. But when I got out and I went to school just to go to school. I just got married, and before I picked that, I was getting through algebra. This is how dumb I am. I was going through algebra, and the only way I was passing it was my wife was in the same class. It was just ugly. And so I went and found that, and I did that, and that was a year program, and it was pretty cool. I got to deal with stuff that I enjoyed doing, sturgeon and trout, and all kinds of cool stuff in my mind. And around here, fish hatcheries and stuff are really prevalent. Aquaculture is huge. You wouldn't think so, but it is. And there's lots of people that were just off the street making as much money as me, and I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this. that was a freaking waste. But
yeah,
and who knows?
That's kind of part of my problem is I'm doing this master's program, and it qualifies me for all kinds of stuff, and I'm like, yeah, but at the end of the day, I'm just going to teach high school. I'm
right, right.
So it's probably I'm working way harder than I need to, but since I've never claimed to be a real sensible person.
But if you like it, if it's a challenge to you, go for it. It is what it is. It's just never.
Yeah.
I always, and this is way off topic, I just always wanted to just go work. That's essentially all I really wanted to do. I just wanted to freaking work and come home. And that was my thing. I was never let's go to college kind of guy. And there's nothing against college. And I always tell my kids this. I always tell my kids this. I was like, 50% of the people out there, the kids, in your class or, for that year across the U.S., they probably don't need to go to college. It's probably not for them.
Oh, no.
And you can actually go to college and make a ton of money doing a trade than getting out of college with a degree you may never use and a whole huge bill.
for sure. And that's kind of something that I tell my high schoolers, because I left high school, went to college.
Yeah.
Then I dropped out of college, went to the military. Then I got out of the military and I went and did a trades program for 5 years. Went through an apprenticeship, right?
Right.
And now I'm going back. So like I've done all the avenues, right?
Right. Right.
Now I'm a business owner.
Yes.
Like, and I tell them, I'm like, figure out what you want to do and go that route. Like, you don't need to go to college to make good money. You can make good money running a crane or digging a ditch.
You just need to know how to work hard.
A plumber.
Yeah. You just
right. You
work hard.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
put away the phone and be there on time. And I had a buddy the other day, and someone was applying for a job, and they said it's really hard to get people to even apply for jobs right now. And
Right.
then when you try to set up a time to apply to get them to like have an interview, they text you back and say, that day's not going to work. I'm kind of busy. I'm like, what? You don't want a job that bad then?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I don't understand. I don't understand people, but anyhow, that's a whole different podcast. So,
right.
but I started talking about my interesting class. I had my permit class last week. Anything that could have happened, anything that could have, I won't say went wrong, but weird happened. It happened in that class. Right. Great class. It was great weather. The classroom portion went perfect. We went out. Actually, no, it didn't go perfect because the law enforcement officer was about 15 minutes late. He's never been late, right? And he was late at about 9. He's supposed to be there at 9. He showed up at about 9:15. I had to wake him up because he worked that night. But I knew, and he's been with me for 5 years, and I should have just realized right then that was just going to be a bad omen from that point on. And the rest of the classroom portion went great. We went outside. We had some new shooters, which was fine. But and I want to throw this PSA out there really quick. So we had a gentleman there who, great guy, and he was brand new. He had a 38 special. Okay, and I like to teach everyone, especially new gun owners. There's so many new firearms owners out there. When you go and you buy your ammo, you need to do a couple things first. You need to look at your gun and read on the side of your gun what caliber of ammo you need. And then when you go to and take a picture of it or write it down. Probably just take a picture of it. We all have smartphones. Go to the store, pull open that picture and compare it. If you can find some ammo, compare it to the boxes. Compare it to the boxes of ammo. And get what it says, right? You need to double check. In fact, you need to almost triple check. And then when you get home and you decide to use that ammo, you need to slide the box open. You need to take the round out. You need to look on the back of the shell casing right around the primer, and it'll tell you what caliber that is. And I like to tell this because there's a lot of them that you're not going to really get confused. You got 9mm, 40 cal, 45, right? But then you also have boxes that instead of saying 380, which it's going to say 9x17. You know what I'm saying? And you got the
9 by 21 or whatever.
And then you have your 9x18 Makarov, which some of those actually say 9mm Makarov on them, but those aren't going to be the right ones for you. Well, this gentleman had a 38 special revolver, and I haven't seen this round in quite a while just because I haven't looked for it. I walk down and I'm checking all the guns, right? And I'm looking and I'm like, that doesn't look right. And I reached down and he'd loaded up 38 supers.
Oh shit!
In his 38 special. And I'm glad I caught it. And he didn't have. He goes, well, that's
for sure.
He's like 38. I said, yeah. And then we explained the difference, right? I get some newbies, and that's not a problem. I expect that. That's why me and my guys, we check stuff like that before we proceed. Right. And I grabbed some ammo for him. I had some factory 38, and I said, hey, he'll just have to pay me for these when you pay for the class. And then we were about halfway through the class, and this all happened at this. Well, actually, we were partial way through the class, and this all happened at the same time. I'm standing there helping him shoot. He's an older gentleman, and I was kind of just working with him, and all of a sudden he's like, bang, bang, bang. Poof. And I'm like, that didn't sound right. Stop shooting. Stop shooting right now. And I took his gun. I had him empty. Actually, I took it from him because I wanted to check it. And I emptied out the cylinder, and I'm looking, and he had a squib load. And the round, obviously, was stuck in the barrel. And I was like, thank the Lord he didn't squeeze the trigger on another one. Because it was right. Yeah, no, it was right. It wasn't even like it was halfway down the barrel. I mean, it was right there, but it was stuck. It was not coming out. And so I caught that. And about the time I caught that, I was like, I'm going to make I said, I'm not picking on you, sir, but everyone needs to know what a squib load is. So I walked up and down the line, and I'm letting everyone see it. Right. And then one of my helpers, my range guys on the other end, he goes, whoa, we got another good example of something that can happen. You need to pay attention to. And I'm like, oh, great. What happened now? I looked around. I was like, nobody's bleeding. So that's good. And he picked up a semi-auto, and what had happened is someone had loaded a round backwards. But he said they'd been doing that, and he'd caught them, but they accidentally put one in, like the first round they loaded, and then they loaded all the others correctly. And so they shot, and they were shooting 7-round drills, and they went, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, click. And nothing happened. And he looked at the gun, and there's a round shoved in backwards. And he's like, how the hell are we going to get this out? I was like, that's the problem. I was like, you don't want to shove anything down the barrel and tap on it, James? Come on. He's like, no, not really. We were able to get in there, and we were able to grab the end of it enough and just wiggle it and kind of pull it out, But I tell you what, I've been doing this for many years now, right? And I'm just like, all at once, I'm like, what the heck? By the time the class was over, and everyone was great, but by the time the class was over, and some more stuff happened, but I'm not gonna. No one got harmed or anything like that. I'm not gonna mention it because I don't want to. If anyone's listening that took the class, I don't want them to think I'm picking on them by any means, because I'm not. But the time the class was over, my two guys looked at me, and we all just didn't say anything. They just looked at me and they're like, what was that? And I'm like, I have no idea.
Right. Like,
I have no idea. I have no idea what that was all about. But what a mess, man.
Yeah, that reminds me. I took a class. It's been several years, but it was like an intro to long range class or whatever.
Right.
And this guy shows up, and he's got a Remington 700 and 30-06, and and he's got all these reloads that he's did the night before that he's testing, which is fine, because that was one of the things in the class is, hey, if you're a reloader, we'll climb on your loads and make sure you're good on zero and all that, right?
Right.
And so first thing we do is we zero and we take some shots at 25 yards just to see if we're on paper, which everybody was, right? But he's keyholing at 25 yards with a 30-06.
Ouch.
And we're all going, what is going on? And his powder drop, he had an electronic powder drop, and it had changed measurements on him. So he barely had any powder in these huge cases. And he was getting cracked cases and high pressure sensors, because that's the thing, is that there wasn't enough powder in there to not explode, but then he was getting no velocity out. It was, and the instructor was like, here, you can shoot my gun the rest of the day, and we'll, go pull these bullets, and but it was a good lesson for everybody. Pay attention to what you're doing when you're reloading. Because it matters.
It does. And especially when you're reloading a rifle. I mean, I've reloaded a rifle. It's not my most favorite thing to do, because you've heard, if you've listened, I know you've listened to at least some of them. You've heard my little reloading adventures. You heard how I reload, and typically it's kind of scary. Yeah. And it's just, there's a lot of steps involved, and I can't get in them. It's like I get distracted, and I've done stupid stuff, and I know a lot of people have, but this is how distracted I get. I mean, when I reload for my 270, right? I use a single stage just because I just want to control everything. And I set I have the trays. I set the cases. They were all ready to go as far as I knew. And they were all set up in those shell holders. And I'm like weighing out the loads and I'm putting it all in, just absolutely beautiful. And I was like, this is great. This is going too freaking smooth. And I get down and I pick up the shell holders, and all the powder runs out the bottom. I'm like,
I'd forgotten to fry them.
Oh my gosh! And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? And I don't even think I went back and finished those. I think I just brushed that crap off into the deal, and I went, I'm not doing 270 anymore. I can go buy them. This is nuts. This is just dumb.
Yeah, right. Like, and, I primarily reload rifle because I've reloaded my entire life on a single stage, right? And reloading pistol on a single stage is the dumbest thing in the world.
Well, it is. So I've got a turret press for that, and I just set it up, and I just keep it there. And I still do a lot of these stages, a couple of the stages, like the depriming. I'll do that on my single, right? And then I will actually a hand prime. But other than that, I mean, everything else is just click, 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 done. Click, 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 done. Click, click.
Yeah. I recently a couple years ago now, went in with a buddy of mine on a huge reloading setup, and we got a progressive and stuff, and it's set up at his house. And now I send all of my components to him, and he sends me back loaded pistol ammo.
That's perfect.
Like that's the way to go, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
And so it is what it is. But I still reload single stage for like my 6.5 and any 308 I do. Like,
well, and I'm trying to, and we're talking to someone who I mean, I'm smart in what I know, right? But I mean, I'm over here trying to like figure out the freaking O-give and like how to crimp these damn things, and I'm putting them in my AR, and the bullets are freaking falling out, and they're getting jammed in the. And I'm like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore.
Here's what I've learned with roughly a decade plus of reloading experience. Everyone talks about like clean out your primer pockets and make sure they're swaged correctly, and neck tension and O-give and this and that and the other, yada yada yada. None of it matters.
I think I was, and I honestly agree with you, because I really think I was overthinking it. Because
like now, if you're an F-class shooter, who is going to hold a 5-inch group at 1,000 yards, and that's what you need to do. Yeah, all of it matters.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If you're shooting an 8-inch plate inside a 500, making sure that your powder throw is consistent,
right?
And that your seating depth is consistent. Everything else,
it doesn't matter. Yeah,
shooting out of a bolt gun. If you're shooting out of an AR or any kind of semi-auto, it's a whole different ballgame. Because then, like you said, you got to crimp, because otherwise bullets fall out. Like, there's all kinds of stuff in a semi-auto. But if you're reloading for a bolt gun, it's really not that hard.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing though, when you string into the reloading podcast, but when you, like me, I didn't really know anyone that was like, no one was like mentoring me. I'm just like, shit, I'm going to reload.
Right.
So I buy my crap and I go online, and the hell with manuals. I just go online. Right. And so you are not going to find, unless I just go to the wrong place, you are not going to find, when it comes to reloading, that guy on the reloading forum that's going to say just what you said, because they're going to be like, well, what a tool. Everyone jumps on those forums and they want to make it sound like they are like the king reloader, and that they're this professional and they do everything perfect. So that's all they're going to talk about. And that's like why I tried to do it, because that's the way I thought it was. And it wasn't.
Yeah. And, I learned to reload from my father-in-law. Right. And he was a very, very, very precise individual. Like he developed loads, but he used manuals and all of that. But if you would have asked him what the O-give of a bullet was, he'd have looked at you like you were 3 kids. Yeah. Like, he's like, yeah. He knew Spitzer bullets, and like he knew all the different bullet shapes and stuff. But, he started reloading in the 70s. Yeah. Like,
well, and then I have, Dean reloads, so I guess I do know someone, but Dean is he's a great guy. By nature, he's a real specific, accurate. That's what he does, and that's not my nature. And like, he can't stand the way I reload. I mean, I don't even like my brass. I don't even freaking tumble my brass unless it's got like freaking like really nasty rust on. I just kind of.
There's a lot of.
I just run.
There's a lot of times I don't. Yeah, there's a lot of times I don't tumble mine. And I'm shooting precision rifle.
Yeah, I haven't tumbled brass in like 10 years.
Yeah, like.
I mean, I don't even care.
You know, and it drives other people nuts whenever because, you know, I shoot that RPR and I show up to things and they've got this $6,000 rifle and they spent, you know, 300 rounds on load development and all this and that and the other.
Right.
And they shoot like a half-inch group, and then I pull out the RPR that I've got $1,500 in, and I'm shooting factory ammo for these reloads that I threw together the night before.
Yeah.
And I shoot a half-inch group. Like,
yeah, and they're the guys that you can't even look at their rounds without sunglasses on because they'll blind you, because after they load the stupid things, they throw them they throw them in the freaking tumbler again to make them super shiny, because that's cool.
Yeah, right. And they look pretty.
They look awesome. They're great. Those are the ones I look for on the computer for my freaking stock photos, you know.
Instagram, man. It's all about the Instagram point.
Yeah, that's exactly what that is. But speaking of so anyhow, we got through that class, everything was good to go. And speaking of classes, I'm gonna jump back and forth between a couple here. I just want to do a shout out to James, or we call him Magdam too, for certain reasons, but he's helped me out with my women. Well, he likes 1911s and he likes Hawaiian shirts, so it fits. So
there you go.
So he helped me out with my women's group class that I had this week, and we did some open hand combat type stuff. And
I saw that.
And I tell you what, those women are here to shoot, and they want to know how to shoot. They absolutely loved that class. That was a fun, and that was only part one. We got to do part two in a couple weeks. They absolutely loved that class. I was a little worried, you know, because it was pretty solemn when he was telling the stories. And then, but when they got up there to do it, I got more messages and text messages and comments on Facebook and everything. They're like, "This was the best class. Yeah, this is the best one ever." So it just made me thrilled. My goal was with these women is teach them to shoot, teach them how to be more confident and safe, teach them how to draw the firearm, and just give them a good, you know, because they're meeting all the way from February to November, and make them well-rounded, you know. I want to teach them, just because you have a gun doesn't mean you need to use it. We're going to teach you tonight how to break out of grips and create space so you can get to your gun. And next week we're going to teach them where to, and I got to put on the little red squishy helmet, and they're going to like beat up on me, and I should probably go pick up a cup from Sporting Goods or something. But because my wife is actually in one of those classes, and so I think I might need to be extra prepared.
Yeah.
But we're going to teach them that, or we're going to teach them a little bit of range first aid, and I leave that class, and I just have a big grin on my face. Is having a class full of women that are just hungry to learn, and they're just fun. Guys are freaking boring. I'm going to tell you right now. Guys are boring.
Oh yeah.
The women's group classes are freaking phenomenal.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because this past week was the 4-year anniversary of the first running gun east of the Mississippi, right?
Right.
And it was my first running gun, and it was a bunch of people's first running gun, because it was the first one that wasn't in Texas or Oklahoma. So everybody shared pictures on Facebook and talking about the memories and this and that and the other. Well, the match director shares the roster, right? And a lot of the people on the roster have gone on to become like ROs for events and MDs, and you know, I'm one of them, right? And like it just reads like this list of all stars at this point. But there were 4 women at this event. At the very first one east of the Mississippi, there were 4 women. And I was talking to one of them, like in the comments and stuff. I said, that's the biggest accomplishment that I can say for Zombie. I had 20 women show up.
That's beautiful.
To Zombie 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 20%. 20% of my shooters were female.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I said, I will. The rest of the event could have gone terribly, and I would have been super proud of that.
Oh yeah,
and you're right. Like they have so much more fun.
Oh, they do. It's absolutely amazing.
And it's like, man, we all need to be like that.
I wish. No offense to the guys that take my class, but you guys are all boring.
Right? Like,
I mean,
yeah. Like,
I have great conversations, but I mean, I don't know. The women's group, they know how to have freaking fun. I mean, they're laughing.
Oh, yeah.
They have me laughing. It's a great time. It really is.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and like this past year, the rimfire event, I had a group of people, and the one guy, he's like a superstar, right, in the running gun world. Like, he wins these things pretty regularly.
Right.
And this is on rimfire day. So him and his partner ran the rimfire together with their two wives, who this was their first ever running gun, and then another female shooter who pretty regularly shoots and does fairly well. But so there's 3 women, a couple of guys. They picked up another guy like on the course, like they caught up to him, and he just decided to start walking with them.
Mm-hmm.
And these people are rolling down the road, listening to music, having a big old time. Like, they don't give a shit for nothing. They were
the ones on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
The Rolling Down the River song, right?
Rolling down the river, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
And Trevor's the one guy's name who generally wins these things. He's like, dude, he said, this was the most fun I've had at a running gun ever. He said, I've done these things and I win them. And he said, they're a lot of fun all the time. He said, but doing this with my wife and her sisters, and like, you know, and it was he was like, this is where it's at. Like, I'm like, I know, you know, and that's what I think is shooters we tend to forget. Like, guns are fun.
They are.
And they should be fun.
Well, we get super competitive, and we forget that.
and we get super caught up in, we need to train, and you need to be serious, right? Because they're not toys,
right?
That doesn't mean that they're not fun.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's fun to introduce people that are new to them, or it's fun to be with. I mean, so like your wife or your girlfriend or just a friend or even
your husband.
Your kids.
I had one group at Zombie that was a female shooter who brought her husband along for the Jack and Jill division, and her husband was the non-shooter in the family. Oh,
wow.
Like,
that's cool.
Yeah. Like, and, you know, and it was a complete role reversal. And she was like, I'm so glad that, you know, you did this because this is how he wants to get into it. And I'm like, dude, I am so happy you're here.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You know, and yeah, new shooters are great. Like, I put that out on Facebook every so often. Like, hey, especially with all the new gun owners, look, if you're thinking about buying a gun or you just bought one and you have no idea what you're doing, call me. Like, shoot me a message on Facebook.
Yep.
We'll set up a time. You can come to my house. I'll go to your range, whatever you need to do, and we'll do some basic stuff.
We'll make it happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to throw out there, not even to shooting, but whatever your hobbies are, whatever you do, it's fun to introduce new people to them and just enjoy it. I mean, I you know me, I've always got to touch back on my running, right? I'm super stoked. My 15-year-old son, Kodiak, is going to actually run the Beaverhead 55K with me this year. And that's awesome. I don't care. We'll finish unless, you know, something unforeseen injury happens, but I don't care if it takes me 4 extra hours, which I don't think it will. He's kind of an ornery, fast little cuss, but, I don't care. It's going to probably be, I've done this race like 2 or 3 times now. I think this will be probably the best one, the most memorable one I've ever done. And it's just going to be so much fun doing it with him. It really is. Right. It's going to be a blast. Yeah. So whenever you can bring someone new into your hobby, shooting, whatever it is, do it, man. Do it. Don't be afraid to share that stuff.
Right. And I know a lot of people who are like, well, I don't really know, you know, enough to teach people. You know more than they do. Like, and I have never learned so much as when I was teaching somebody.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Like going over the basics again, going over, like the things that you take for granted as an experienced shooter, or like I'm a horseback rider, right? So,
Yes.
and that's really one for me, because I was sat on my first horse at 6 months old. I was riding I was doing my own trail horses and stuff by the time I was 3 or 4. Like, helping Dad clear trails at 5 and 6. Broke my first horse at 11. So like, I've got decades of experience on horses.
Right.
And then somebody new shows up, and I'm like, and I'm showing them stuff, and they're like, "Well, what if this happens?" And I'm like, "Oh crap, you're right. That's a good question."
Yeah. Let me get back. Let me get back to you on that.
Well, and it's like, or I generally know the answer to it, or I can tell them, well, in that case, here's what we do. But it's something that I don't even think about, because it's something that to me would not be a big deal. Like, it would just be something that would naturally get handled. And to them, it is a big deal, because it's not something that they naturally know what to do.
Yeah.
And we run into that too with firearms. Like,
oh yeah.
People don't know where the safety is on a gun. And a lot of people, especially online, I hate online forums so much for this.
Don't even look at them anymore.
Don't know, yeah. But they're like, if you can't find the safety on your gun, you shouldn't own a weapon. No. You need somebody to show you where the damn safety is. Like,
yeah, you have a legitimate question. How are we supposed to expect that for this to grow? Right? I mean, we've got to bring in new people. And there was, and I've heard a few different numbers, but they're all huge. Well, I'm going to pick the one in the middle, but 7 million first-time gun buyers, first-time gun owners bought firearms last year. 7 million.
Yeah.
I mean, and I've in my area, I've been pretty busy with classes like that. But I mean, just take someone out. Take someone out and help them. I mean, take them out and help them buy a gun, because and be there to help them. I mean, and I'm not saying all. And I don't want to say this because Mark helps me on the podcast, and I know lots of guys that work behind the gun counter, and most of the ones I know are pretty good guys, but I know there's ones out there that are not, and make sure they don't get taken advantage. Be there to help them answer their questions. I mean, it is what it is. Just being there is huge.
Well, and like, I have people message me, hey, what first time gun owner, or first time I want to buy a pistol. What should I look at? And I go, well, if you're looking at a basic 9mm, I said, you've got Smith & Wesson M&P, Glock 19, Glock 17. I said, or you can go the revolver route, get the 38, this and that and the other.
Right.
I said, they're like, well, what do you shoot? And I'm like, don't worry about what I shoot. What I shoot is not what you should buy. Like,
well, and it's so personal.
Right. And that's what I tell them. I'm like, look, if you want, and actually some friends of ours, last year, she was looking to pick something up to carry. And I happened to be storing some guns for some buddies of mine who were like traveling, right? So they didn't want to leave their guns in their house while they were going to for 2 or 3 months. So they brought them, and I've got plenty of safe space. So I was like, yeah, come on over. And she was like, look, I'm looking for, a new pistol, this and that and the other. And I had a couple of 38 revolvers. I had a Glock 19. I had a Glock 17. I had a Glock 43 in the house. Like, and we went out in the backyard and I laid out 10 pistols for her. And I was like, we're going to shoot every single one of them. And I said, and at the end of it was like my 10mm, I said, they're going to be bigger and harder hitting, but they're going to recoil more. And I think she ended up settling on like a 19. The 19 fit her hands better than the M&P did.
Sure.
And she was like, she said, I would have probably picked the M&P because I think it's a better looking pistol. I said, yeah, for sure. Glocks are ugly.
Yeah.
She's like, but the Glocks fit my hand better.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's why you need to pick them up. You need to shoot them. You need to.
And then you're like, go purchase you one of those. Come and see me. And then let's talk about the trigger.
Right. Well, like I shoot my Glock 29 still got the stock trigger.
Oh,
like,
my Glocks do as well. It's just that's like, okay. You just got to learn them.
It's fine. You just got to shoot. Like the more rounds you shoot, the better.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I mean, help people out. Now, we're talking here of new shooters, right? And I want to something that this is. I've grown over the last 8 or 9 years of doing this, right? And so and I'm not picking on this gentleman at all. This guy runs a great podcast, and I haven't listened to it for a few years now, but Tom Gresham, Gun Talk, right?
Yeah.
Does a great show. And when I first started doing this, when I first started giving these classes, and I try to bring a lot of personal touch to my class, and we have an enjoyable time, and I try to help everyone individually and as much as I possibly can. And when I first got started, I really tried to do that. And I still try to do it now. But I would always listen to Tom Gresham, and he'd always jump on there, and he'd always say, your concealed carry class, your CCW class, it's not a self-defense class, right? You're going to learn the basics. You're going to learn a little bit of law if that's what they require. You're going to pull the trigger a few times, but that shouldn't be where your training ends. And, I used to like bristle up a little bit and be like, right. That used to irritate me. And a few times, I'll be honest, I shut his freaking show off for a couple of weeks. I was like,
right.
But you know what? He's been in the business for a long time. And I totally get it. And I was thinking about that. And I was actually talking to James about it. And if I don't know if when he listens to the podcast, he'll probably comment on it or something. But I was like, you know what? I really try. And I want to take each person in my class aside, and I want to sit there with them, stand there with them for, 20, 30 minutes. And I want to give them all individual time. And I still do my best. And that's why I have two other guys helping me. Right. So everyone gets some individual type attention, but really I'm of the thinking now, and I have been for a while. I'm just vocalizing it now. Your concealed carry permit class, don't let that be the only class. It should not
be the end of your training.
It should not be the end of your training, because you're getting what the state says you need, which is learning the law. And that's an important thing. You need to know those laws. You need to know the ins and outs of concealed carry, and you're getting the basic fundamentals, let me say that again, basic fundamentals, right? And in Idaho's permit, you fire 98 rounds. Weird number, but it's 98 rounds. And you're going to learn some with that. And there's a lot of people I know that will put that gun away as soon as they leave class. They're going to go, they're going to apply for their permit, and they're going to take that G19 or Taurus or Sky or whatever pistol they've bought, right? And they're going to stick it in a holster, and they're going to carry that gun every single day. And they're not going to touch that gun again for 2 years. Will not leave their holster for the next 2 years. I guarantee it. And they've probably forgotten if it's loaded. They've probably forgotten if there's a round chambered. They've forgotten if it's had a safety on it. They've forgotten the grip. They've forgotten everything. And I'm not trying to chastise people, right? But they need to take more classes. As much as I'd like to think that my concealed carry class is a good one, which I do believe it is, it's not the end all be all. And honestly, when they come up to me, and some of them come up to me and they say, and I'm going to say probably 90% of them never touch the gun again, except for to maybe put it in that holster. Right. Right. The ones that do come up to me and say, hey, I want to take another class. What's the next class? It's surprise, surprise. You're going to show up, and it's going to be almost the repeat, but it's going to be just you and me for like 2 hours going over everything. And I'm standing there, and I'm really helping dial you in, right? We're going to get rid of any bad habits you have. We're going to dial you in. And then from that class, we can go on to other classes. And I want to throw that out there. I see so many brand new people, and they think it's fun in the concealed carry permit class, but then that's where it stops. And you need to keep going. I'm not saying you need to go, spend a bunch of money and go out to a gun site or something like that, but you've got to have a little bit more, at least one or two more classes. You really need one or two more classes.
Well, and I, and she's not going to listen to this, so I can pick on her a little bit. My sister.
Sure.
Right. She's 4 or 5 years older than me, depending on what time of the year. And has never been a gun person. Right. Like she's never been a gun person. Not that she dislikes guns, but she's just never been a gun person. She got into a relationship here 6-8 months ago, I guess. And her new boyfriend he's a gun guy.
Right. Good.
And good. And whenever I met him, I thought, okay, good. He carries, so she's got somebody that's going to be around her a lot that carries, and all that. Well, he has some friends who run a school or run a training program, so she went down and she took a class.
Oh, good.
And then And recently she applied for her permit and she got her carry permit. I don't know if she carries or not. I don't care. Like,
Right.
it's none of my business, right? And I told her, I said, Desi, I said, you need to come out to the house sometime. I said, we'll shoot. And she's like, well, I took that class. And I'm like, Desi,
Yeah,
you
that's
need to come out to the house.
Yeah.
And her boyfriend was like, yeah, we really do need to go, and you need to practice more. And like, he didn't necessarily side with me, but he kind of smoothed out the edges a little bit.
Right.
And they go out and they practice and stuff. So it's good, but I'm like, another class would do you a world of good. I said, because you went into it, I said, there's no way you absorbed everything from that first class that first class had to offer. I said, repeat the same class if you want. Like, it doesn't matter, because I guarantee you'll learn something new.
Oh, every time.
Right. Like, I've taken, I think at this point, 4 or 5 long-range precision shooting classes.
Uh-huh.
Do I need a long-range precision shooting class? Probably not. Do I learn something every time I take one? Absolutely. It's and that's something that I'm wanting to do once I get out of this master's program more. Is some buddies of mine just went up to Alliance about 6 months ago, and they took some force-on-force classes.
Oh, cool.
And they did some stuff like that. And one guy's getting into some like real close quarters, basically like your open hand combat, only with sim rounds.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You then introduce the weapon, right? And some stuff like that, because that's the level that they're at. They're all competition shooters. They've carried for years. They've done multiple classes at a lot of different trainers. They know what they're looking for, and that's where they're at, right? That's the training. But they're still taking classes. I bet my one buddy spends $1,000 a year on classes.
Oh, and you can do that quickly. I think
yeah.
I did that.
3 classes a year.
I did that a month and a half ago for the year.
Yeah, right. Like his goal is 1 pistol, 1 carbine class, and then a 3rd class of something. And sometimes that 3rd class is medical training.
You're right.
Or it's revamping, or it's renewing his logs thing, and like it's a basics class that he takes. But yeah, I know he spends probably $1,000-$1,500 a year. He wants to take at least 3 classes every year.
And every class, yeah, and every class though that you take, someone's got ideas. I mean, and I keep going back to James. I mean, James takes a whole bunch of classes from everyone. He's got no, and he's like, man, he's like, part of that is going to be, I know I'm going to go pay money, and I know I'm going to go sit through class, and I know I'm probably going to hear the same thing for 90% of the class, but there's going to be that little 10%, that little thing that I learn that I can take it and I can go, man, where can I plug that in? And I can plug it in here. And then all of a sudden, I've used something from Todd, something from this guy over here, something from someplace up in Washington State, something from over here. And I've developed this like phenomenal like shooting system or style that works for me. Right. He's taking little bits and pieces of knowledge. And I keep going back, I went down and took that TPC class. I know everyone is getting tired of hearing about it, I'm sure, but it's you've got the NRA way of doing things, which is not, I mean, as far as I won't say the spending money and buying suits. Okay. Well, you got the NRA way of like teaching the basics, the fundamentals, right? And they aren't bad fundamentals, but you can improve on those fundamentals. You can tweak those fundamentals. There's people out there that have proven it. And that's exactly what I did at that TPC class. And it's just, it's taken it. And I'm not saying what I was teaching before was wrong, because frankly, I'm still teaching that stuff. I'm teaching that to the concealed carry permit classes. I don't have time to tweak them like TPC did and teach them the tactical performance center way of doing things. But it makes sense. What they said makes sense. It's taking a rusty old way of doing it, putting a more of a scientific modern type spin on it. And you're like, you do it and you're like, holy crap. James came over and learned some stuff from me the other day. And he's been helping me out with a bunch of stuff. And so I was like, he's like, come over. He said, can I come over? I said, yeah, come over and I'll teach you some of the stuff that I learned down there. No problem. We spent 3 hours. And he's like, holy crap. holy crap, look at how flat my gun is. I mean, and I'm like,
right.
yeah. So you tweak it a little and you get that. And that's what I'm excited to teach people. Don't just go, you're cutting everything short. If all you do is go to that one class, you're cutting yourself short, because that's
For sure.
that's important stuff. But frankly, that's kind of boring stuff. I mean, you're going to get into, for someone new, it's exciting, but there's so much more. There's
so much more, and that's what I tell people too whenever they ask me questions. I'm like, okay, what level do we need to go to? I said, do you want me to just give you basic surface level stuff? I said, because if you want me to deep dive into guns, I'm like, you need to come over for a weekend, and we will be like, and that's kind of what I tell people too. But yeah, it's interesting that you talk about it, and you said the word that I always use. You're building a system.
Yeah.
You build your system of how you carry or how you shoot or how you approach situations or how your situational awareness is. But it's all a system, right? And there's no one part that is more critical than any of the others, right? So like if you're shooting pistol, it's your stance is important and your grip's important and your trigger control is important and your breathing is important. And all of those things are super important, but none of them are more important than any of the others, right? Like, and it's funny because just a while back, a buddy of mine came over, and he's super fast on rifle, like a short range blaster stage. He'll win it every time, but he was struggling to hit 8-inch plate at the competition we had just left at 100 yards offhand. Like, he couldn't hit that plate for nothing.
Right.
And I'm like, you need to move your hand back. And he said, what? I said, you got your hand all the way out at the end of the barrel or at the end of the handguard. I said, like you're shooting a 25 to 50 yard stage. He said, well, that's how I hold my gun. I said, that's not how you can hold your gun if you want to hit something real small, really far away.
Right.
He said, what should I do? I said, suck your hand in. I said, beer can grip. I said, or palm up shelf grip on. I said, but bring it all in close to your body. I said, where it's all nice and tight and it's not wobbling around everywhere. And I had him on an 8-inch plate at 100 in 15 minutes. And
right.
He's like, I'm like, you can shoot. You just have to tweak it to the situation, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I said, and he's like, I said, and now that's part of your system. Like that. Now you know that whenever you get out past 75, 80 yards,
there's a way to do it.
There's a way to do it.
And
I said, the best way to do it is to go seated or prone. But if you have to do it offhand, like,
and then the thing is too, and it's cliche. And I almost hate this because I hear it all the time. But it's as cliche as it sounds, and you hear it all the time. It's another tool in your toolbox, and you know it, and you've learned it, and you can reach in and grab it out when you need it. And that's what it's freaking there for. Why not learn, right? We talked earlier. Funny the way this conversation is going today. We talked earlier about school, and I didn't feel like college was for everyone, and I'm not a whatever. But there's education in anything that you do. Go out and you like this, you enjoy it, be educated in it, learn, enjoy it, expand your knowledge, become the best you can be at it, and then help others. It's
for sure.
It's that simple. And I'm the kind of guy that, and I'm a guy, right? We're all a little, and we talked about the difference between men and women in classes, with guys, you get a little machismo, right? I like to think that I'm pretty down to earth and I'm not out there bumping chests, but I'm a guy. So yeah, no, that's in me too. It really is. But here I am. And we'll get into this as well. We're just going to flow right into it. But, I just finally, and I'm probably way late to the game, but I finally just put a red dot on my gun. Right. You've listened to me over the past, even year or so, and you've heard me talk about red dots. I still think that you need to learn iron sights and understand those as well. But you know what? Just a little I've shot mine. I think they're freaking great. And I'm like, why the hell didn't I pick this up sooner? But, I'm humble enough, I think, to jump up there and say, hey, look, this is what I said. Right. And people said, no, you don't know. You don't know, Todd. Oh, yeah, I do know. No, you don't. I don't know. And I'm putting it on, and I'm willing to go down, and I'm willing to have someone who I've had who I've taught stuff to, who is good with a red dot actually come and teach me with a red dot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm willing to say,
Yeah.
teach me what I need to freaking know, because I want to learn this. I want to become proficient with it. And it's all about changing and growing. And I tell you, when I went and took that TPC class, it was hard. It was hard for me to go in there and say, so I teach and I know this and I know that, and I've been doing this for this many years, and I'm not saying I'm fantastic or I'm a great shooter by any means. I think I can hold my own, right? But I'm here. I want to learn your system, and I'm going to pretty much come in as a blank slate, and I'm going to forget everything. Now teach me. That's freaking hard to do. Right? When you're up there and you know you can shoot and you're trying to shoot their system, their way, learn their way, right? And I know, and I can stand there and I can stack shots. I can make nice little tiny groups with my system. But when I'm learning their system, it's like I'm starting all over again. And I'm like, it's so hard not just revert back when they're not looking and start stacking some shots in there, you know?
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
It's hard to do. And I'm going to like do that. I'm not trying to sound like I'm a martyr or anything, but I mean, I'm going to humble myself down with this freaking red dot, and I'm going to have to start over because it's a whole new way of shooting. Really.
It's a whole new way of shooting. And I tell you what a red dot really changes, and this is, we could do an entire podcast on the subject that I'm about. Actually, I've done an entire podcast with some other buddies of mine.
Hey, I may have you jump on again sometime, and we'll do another one, because I'm gonna I'll have to
dry fire.
Yes.
Oh my God, dry firing with a dot is like, it's like you were blind and now you can see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that dot is a lot more responsive than sights are. I don't care how good your sights are, how good your iron sights are. That dot moves way faster than your sights do.
It's like the guy that pops out his laser in class because he thinks he's cool.
Oh yeah.
You're like, yeah, go ahead, fire that laser up. We'll all watch.
Yeah, and then the laser's shaking all over the place, right?
Left, right, up, down, in circles.
Yeah, but you get to where you can dry fire well and hold the dot still. Oh my God, that changes your pistol game. Like, it really does. And dry fire is something that 99% of people don't do, and they all should.
Oh yeah,
I should dry fire more. Like, I don't dry fire nearly enough.
I will say,
and we've talked about the mantis and all of that, you know.
Yeah.
But
that's the one thing I drive home. I drive home is dry fire, and I have no problem, even in my concealed carry permit class. If I'm seeing a good portion of the class, we got shots going, not horribly, but they're going awry, and I see a lot of, jerking of the trigger and all that stuff going on. I have no problem say, okay, everyone make sure your gun's unloaded. We'll check everything. And now everyone, let's do some dry fire. You're all going to do it like 20 times. You need to do it way more than that, but let's do it so you can see it. Let's get back on track again. Right. Let's try to enhance those neural pathways and get back on track and see what we can come up with. And they're usually pretty good for another 10 or 12 rounds. And then we have to, we don't redo it all the time, but it needs to be done. I preach dry fire like crazy.
I do it with people who get behind my RPR.
Yeah.
And I'm like, run the bolt 5 times, squeeze the trigger 5 times. I want to see what you're doing.
Yep.
And they're like, what? I'm like, I'll put, if I've got a new shooter and I know that they start flinching, I'll put an empty round in the bag.
Yeah.
Like just a piece of brass.
Yes.
And then they'll flinch on that round, and I'm like, dude, this gun doesn't recoil that hard, and that was an empty round. Like, and you just saw what you did. There was no recoil there. Oh, and I'm like, don't do that.
Well, my new
build the bridge. It's wild how much you can get out of dry fire.
My new expensive toy I got is a shooting simulator.
Oh yeah,
and I tell you what, it's pretty cool because you're running. It's essentially is an airsoft gun. So it's cycling off that green gas. So there's a little bit of recoil, but nothing like an actual firearm. But it's shooting that IR laser. Right. I pull up a great big bullseye target on the screen, right? So they can essentially, it's like dry firing, but you're going to get a response, and then you can really see you can really see
Right.
where they're hitting. It's freaking fantastic.
Yeah, I tell you what, I just did my second ever FFL transfer yesterday.
Uh-huh.
A buddy of mine ordered. He told me, he said, I'm just testing my wings on this new. He never ordered a gun online before, and so what he ordered, it was the craziest gun I've ever seen, the dumbest gun I've ever seen, and I need one. It was an Altor single shot 9mm pistol.
I'd have to pull that up and look at it. I don't even know, dude.
Yeah, you need to. Okay, so to load it, you take the barrel off, and on the front of the gun, between where the plastic piece is and the barrel is like a reloading shell holder. And you slide the bullet down into that, and then you put the barrel on around it. Okay?
Why?
To fire the gun, it's just a single shot.
That's
it's
weird.
It's $100 gun. It's $100
crap,
gun.
I'd do it too for $100.
Yeah. Well, that's what he said. He was just testing the online buying process and seeing how it all went and all that. And as he said, I can put it in my pocket and it's better than a rock.
Oh, yeah.
If the last resort, it's better than a rock.
Perfect.
But to fire it, the trigger, you pull it back and then you let it go. And then it slides forward and hits the firing pin.
It's a freaking slingshot.
It's like a slingshot. And I didn't think about it yesterday, but we both took one shot with it. He missed and I hit the target. And now that I'm thinking back on it, he flinched because the barrel's only like 2.5 inches long. Super short barrel. And the whole receiver's plastic. And it recoiled some, but it's a 9mm. It's not going to recoil that hard.
Right.
But he flinched and that's why he missed. And I'm sitting here going, that's probably an interesting way to train somebody to pull it because it doesn't go off on the trigger pull.
Yeah.
It goes off when you let it slide back.
Oh, yeah.
When you pull your hand off. I'm going to have to buy one. And I don't even like 9mm, but, for $100,
you can't go wrong.
Rock.
Yeah.
It's
the one you hand the ATF if they come knocking.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's your dump gun.
But it was a cool little, like I said, it's completely, I don't know. I don't want to say it's pointless, but it's not really practical or anything like that. Although, as he pointed out, it doesn't really look like a gun. It looks like, honestly, a pipe. Like if you saw it sticking up out of somebody's pocket, you would think they had like a tobacco pipe.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, I'll send you some pictures whenever we get done here.
Okay, cool.
But it was a neat little piece, But I didn't think about it at the time because I was playing with a new gun. But he flinched because he didn't know
how it worked even
what
hardly.
It was going to do. Yeah, he was. Yeah, right. Like the very first round out of the gun, I'd literally gotten the proceed from the ATF 3 minutes before, and I was like, "Well, let's step out in the backyard and shoot it." But yeah, I mean, it was but yeah. So, anyways, dry fire is awesome for anybody who's listening who doesn't dry fire. You should
definitely. So let's get back to my red dot.
To your red dot. So you shot it.
That's pretty. But let's back up even further. That looks damn sexy on that VP9.
Oh man,
it looks good.
And I will say this: I'm not a huge HK fan, but the VP9 or the VP line of HKs is probably the most accurate production pistol on the market.
Oh, they're freaking phenomenal! I love them.
They're so good. They're so good. And having a dot on top of one is almost like cheating. It really is.
I'm going to tell you this. It took me forever to find a plate because HK needs to include adapter plates in there.
Yeah. All that.
It took me forever, and I wanted to steal one. Right? I'm new to this, so what I'm saying may just be just freaking hogwash, stupid stuff, right? But I wanted a good steel one. I'm thinking aluminum. Is it going to last? Is it going to do this? But so they kept saying they're going to come out with some steel plates. They were going to come out. They had them out. Everything's been on back order for freaking 8 months. And it's taking me 3 or 4 months now. And finally I'm like, screw it. Found an aluminum one, $50. I'm gonna buy it. So I bought it, and I, Loctited that stuff into, some blue Loctite, and we got her all freaking taken care of. Got her on there. I went out and I kind of sighted it in, and then I just started shooting. I think I put like 50 rounds through it. Nothing crazy, just kind of messing with it, just kind of seeing what it was. I tell you what, that's fun as hell, man.
Oh man.
It is.
Now, I saw that you had the Hollisman on it. Is it the 507 with the circle dot, or is it the 407 with just the dot?
No, it's the 507. I'm just using the dot. I don't like that circle thing.
Okay, so there's a reason for the circle thing.
Okay.
The circle dot.
Okay. What is it?
At 10 yards,
Yes.
32 MOA circle is a perfect 6-inch plate.
Oh.
So if I'm shooting at a plate rack or at like a dueling tree or something, and I'm in the 8 to 12 yard range, I don't even pay attention to the dot. I line the circle up on the outside of the plate, squeeze the trigger. Line the circle up on the outside of the plate, squeeze the trigger.
Ooh.
Like, and it's
how far?
real fast.
Six to what yard?
8 to 12. 8 to 12 yards.
Okay.
Right in the 10 yard range.
I will remember that.
I'm sure. Yeah. Play with it. Just play with it.
I will.
And it's I have the circle dot. I have the 507 on the Maxim, and I use the circle more than I use the dot.
Really,
honestly.
So I'm just scratching the surface here. But I tell you what, I'm a decent shooter anyway. I mean, I can shoot irons fine and all that good stuff. And I wasn't like gunning by any means fast. I just kind of was shooting and just kind of getting a feel for it, more or less practicing, picking it up and squeezing a shot off. But I tell you what, I don't know if it's just because it's faster. I don't know what, but and this is going to sound, you're going to laugh your butt off when I say this, because I don't even know how to explain it. And I don't know if it's just because I'm looking at a freaking red dot or both eyes open or what it is. It's like freaking laser beam, dude. It seems like it's laser beam accurate. Does that make sense?
It does. And I tell you, there's a scientific reason for that.
I'm sure it's tricking the mind or something, but it's freaking sweet.
Well, no. It's okay. So when you're shooting standard iron sights, right? You have your rear sight, your front sight, and the target.
It's all the planes you're trying to align, right? Yeah.
So all the planes that you're trying to align, right? You're trying to focus on 3 different distances, and the brain gets all confused, and it takes a 10th of a second or a 100th of a second to do that. The dot, even though it's on a plane that's closer than the target, right? Because it's on the plane of glass.
Yeah.
The brain doesn't think it is. It's just a random red dot floating in the air.
Yeah.
So it's on the target. So all you got to do is target on focus. And that's where your learning curve is because, if you're shooting irons, you focus on the front sight, and everything else should be a little blurry and all that. No. If you're shooting with a red dot, focus on the target, put the dot on top of it, pull the trigger.
Yeah.
It
was like I felt like I couldn't miss.
Yeah.
I do.
It's cheating. It's cheating.
It is. I have 3 popper plates. They're all spring loaded and stuff. I got them all bolted down to these railroad ties, and I was just I was giggling like a little kid, Tiger. I'm out there going, pa-ting, 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 pa-ting. I'm like, holy shit. Look at this go.
The first time I ever shot a plate rack with a red dot, it was with a 507C, or it was a dueling tree is what it was.
Yeah.
I shot a dueling tree with a 507C. Buddy of mine had one on a G34. And at the time, I was still I had shot that same plate rack or the same dueling tree the day before with my G29.
Right.
And the stage, you had to move back and forth and do some different things. And it was most targets you could hit in 60 seconds. And I hit like 16.
Right.
16 plates in 60 seconds with some movement and everything. And I felt like I had shot fairly well. And this guy hands me this G34 with this red dot on it. And I hit 29 targets the first time I ever handled the pistol.
You feel like you're a freaking superhero. I always make fun of this thing, but you kind of feel like you're John Wick.
Yeah, exactly. You really do.
It's insane. I'm looking at my appendix carry holster, and I'm like, Time to get the Dremel tool out. There's no way I'm not going to carry this gun without this freaking red dot. There's not a chance in hell that that's going to happen. I mean,
like I said, my 29, I still had stock Glock triggers, stock Glock sights, all that. It's my everyday carry. And I'm sitting here going, is it worth it to mill my 29 slide?
Oh yeah.
Is it worth it to spend another $450 on this gun that I've spent $300 on and carried for years?
Yeah.
To have a red dot, and I'm almost there. Like I'm almost at the point. Like, you know what? It's worth it.
Yeah, I've got a M&P 2.0, and it's not milled, and I've still got this freaking Burris, and I'm like, that thing needs to go on something. What's next? It's got to go on something. And I know there's a guy in town that he's a gunsmith, and he's pretty reasonable. He'll machine them right, and he'll cut them, you know, and fit them in place. I'm thinking about. I didn't want him to do that on my VP9. I just got a thing for my HK, so I want to do it differently. But there's James. I keep mentioning James. I will have to send you some pictures, and he has what I believe, and I'm not a 1911 guy. He loves his 1911s, right? And he has what I call, I think there's 2 or 3 of them he's got. I call them his blasphemies. And he's got some pretty
high. 2011?
What?
Are they 2011?
No, no.
Red dots, extended mag wells, all that.
No, well, I call them blasphemies because what he's done is he's taken some pretty, I'm not a 1911 guy. He's taken some pretty high-priced 1911s. And he takes them down, has this guy cut them, and attaches Glock MOS plates to them, and they're like hanging off the sides. Oh. And then he just shoves a freaking red dot on them, and they are so freaking accurate and spot on. It's it's unfreaking believable. And some of them look like he just like wedged them together in his freaking lab, and they are freaking phenomenal. They're phenomenal. I mean, he's got a high priced one. He just had this guy just cut that. I don't freaking care. Put it on there.
Well, see, and the thing is now he doesn't even have to do that.
Yeah.
Like he has to cut it for a dot. But Holson came out with the 507K.
Yeah.
And it's a single stack. It'll go right on the 1911 slide.
Yeah. Yeah, he's done. But I mean, it just looks funny. I'm a big 1911 guy, and he pulls it out. I'm like, what the hell you got hanging off that thing?
Yeah, no shit, right? Like
it's freaking on it. And I said, you need to have those all laser engraved now. You need to have laser engraved on their Blasphemy 1, Blasphemy 2, Blasphemy 3. I said, I don't like 1911s, but that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. They are just a mix of old school and new school. It's phenomenal.
I love 1911s. I really do. I don't own one right now. I've owned several over the course of my life, and then sold them, bought them, sold them, traded them, because I've never found one that I was like absolutely couldn't get rid of, in love with.
Right.
But like, and I've thought about that too the last 6 months or so. Maybe I should buy a 1911 and, put a dot on it. And then I'm like, but my Glock, like,
right. Well, and I gotta say this of James. He uses his guns, and he doesn't really. I don't know that he really cares even how much they are. He uses them, and he will take those 1911s. And he will do whatever he has to do to make it work. So I taught him some of the stuff I learned at TPC the other day, and a little higher up on the grip, and how to put pressure on the gun in different places. And his freaking safety was getting in the way because I adjusted everything on him, and and he kept kicking his safety back on. And he goes home, and a little while later, he's like, I fixed it. I'm like, what did you do? Because I just took more material off that stupid thing. It's not going to hook up anymore. It won't hook up on my thumb anymore. I'm like, holy crap. He doesn't care. Here's a Dremel. He makes them so they will work, and he does not care. And I will give him credit because he has no safe queens. He has 0 safe queens.
Oh, no. And that's how I am too. Like, I have people who cringe at what I do to my weapons. Like,
right.
I mean, well, and I do these run against stuff, and like the one year, I was carrying a crap ton of weight because I was an idiot. So I actually carried 2 rifles for this for this one. I've carried 3 in other events, but this was the first one where I carried multiple rifles. So I had my little bullpup AK strapped to the side of my pack, and then I had my RPR in the scabbard.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the obstacles was this 14-foot ladder that we had to go up. And when I say ladder, it was 2 telephone poles with 2x12s bolted to the telephone poles, and the 2x12s were separated by about 3 feet. So there was like 5 rungs to get up to this like 14-foot or 15-foot height.
Oh, jeez.
Yes. And I'm carrying 131 pounds in my pack.
Holy crap.
That I've got to get up and over this wall, right?
Yeah.
And I get up to this wall, and like I said, there's like 2 or 3 feet between the top rung and the second rung. And I'm like, put my leg over, and I realize that there is no safe way for me to transfer the weight of this pack and not possibly drag myself off and fall, 15 feet to my death.
Right.
So I strip my pack off and throw it over the wall. And like my RPR, if I were to rebuild it at this point with the barrel and the optic itself is like $2,900, and like,
right.
And a guy saw me and he's like, "Did you just drop your RPR over the top of that wall?" And I'm like, "Yep." And then we had to do it again. So I had to do it twice.
Oh, shit.
And he's like, "Jesus, man." He's like, "Come up with something else." And I'm like, "Look, my gun was built to be used, right? Like, that's what it's there for."
I
Like,
use good parts. If it ain't going to work, I want to know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Or like, and then the next year, my bullpup AK, one of the hooks on the sear broke. Well, that made it go binary. It wasn't going to run away from you, but it was loose enough in there that if you let off the trigger, it was going to fire again.
Right.
So it wasn't really safe. So I get out, and I left it that way for probably 6 months until I could find the parts that I needed, and I couldn't find anything because it's a bullpup, so it's totally weird and stupid, and
right.
like parts are impossible to find. So I went out and I bought just a standard AK trigger, and got drinking one night, and I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stick this other trigger up, and I'm going to drill a hole in it to mark. And then I'm going to use a Dremel, and I'm going to Dremel this. And I'm going to and over the course of about an hour, I installed a custom AK trigger.
Yeah.
And my buddy was like, "Do you trust it?" And I'm like, "It's at least as good as the one that failed."
Yeah.
Like,
if you got a Dremel tool, you're an instant gunsmith.
Absolutely. Like, actually, I burned my Dremel up the other night because I was cleaning. I pulled the baffles out of my DSU. I was cleaning the suppressor on the DSU, and to do that, you unscrew the front of it, and you pull all the baffles out. Well, I ran them through my ultrasonic, and I was scrubbing all of this, that, and the other, and I'm like, this is kind of dumb. So I went and got my Dremel and put just like a buffer brush on it, and started pulling all this carbon and shit off of it.
It burned
and eventually
burned it up.
The carbon got sucked into the Dremel, and it burned it up. So now I've got to go buy a new Dremel.
Yeah, you guys should always have 2 or 3 of those.
Well, but I got my suppressor baffles clean.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I tell you what, Tiger, it's been a pleasure as always.
Oh man, it's been a good time.
We'll get you on here again, and let me go put some more time behind that red dot, and then give me a while, give me a month, and then I'll get you back on here, and we'll talk red dots again, because I am like, I need to rig up my holster so I can go from a draw, and I'm going to go play with it some more, and then start drawing with that and checking that out. But I am super excited, and a lot of people seem to have trouble locating that red dot, and they first, and I'm
off the draw.
Yeah, I haven't done it off the draw yet, but I'm pretty quick at picking it up regardless. So we'll see. I'm curious.
Well, here's the trick that I have learned.
Okay.
Is if you have even 1/3 co-witness, even if you don't have like suppressor height where it's absolute co-witness iron sights, even if it's just 1/3 co-witness, and you'll be good at this. If you line up your iron sights, your dot should be in the window.
Right. Yeah. It should. It definitely
Like
should.
if you draw and you line up just like you do on iron sights, your dot should be in the window.
And what James does, and I haven't messed with it too much, and it makes sense to me. It works for him. He's got his grip, he's got everything, and he draws and gets it out there. And at the last minute, that pinky on his strong hand, his gun hand, he will just kind of like tense up that pinky, and it just moves it just enough that red dot just comes right into view.
It pulls it into view. Yeah, I've heard of guys doing that too. Like I said, I've always just, if my irons are going to be lined up, my dot should be there.
And I don't have suppressor style height irons yet. I just got the red dot, so that's what we're doing. Right. That's what we're doing for right now. But like I said, man, thanks for giving me. It was an hour and 20-minute show. Thanks for giving me an hour and 20 minutes of your time this evening. I know it's a little later there, so
it's no big deal. Like I said, I've been sitting around this campfire, drinking a couple of beers, and enjoying a real pretty night. So.
Oh, awesome. So I'm going to jump in here, and I'm just going to let everyone know that thanks for listening to the podcast. I sure appreciate it. If you haven't, go over, check out the Patriot Defense YouTube channel. Make sure you click subscribe to that thing. And maybe someday I'll get enough people subscribing to it that I can actually go live from my phone. That would be cool, but I don't know. That takes a lot of subscribers, and I don't know if we'll ever get to that point. But I do appreciate that. Share it with your family, share it with your friends. You can find the podcast audio version. You can find that on Spotify. You can find it on Stitcher. You can find it on iTunes, and anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find that. And if anyone wants to be on the podcast or got any comments or questions or anything, you can call me. You can text me. Area code 620-794-6223. That's area code 620-794-6223. Get a hold of me. I respond to text messages, and I'll even answer your phone call. And not many podcast hosts are going to tell you that, but I will answer your phone. I don't care who you are. I will chat with you. I have no problem doing so. Till then, everyone have a great week, and I will be back. I'll be back on probably this coming Saturday. I don't see why not. Maybe Friday, but I think I'll be up Saturday evening. So I will see you then. Thanks for listening. Bye. Let me get out of here real quick. Thanks for everyone watching us on YouTube Live. I am out. And awesome. It's been fun. As